Good evening. Welcome to the Jefferson County Board of Education meeting on Monday, May 22nd, 2023. If you'd please join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Those little voices in the pledge were just precious, by the way. Thank you. Before we start our meeting tonight, I just want to say a quick shout out to all of our 2023 graduates. Graduation, as Dr. Gibson-Learn mentioned, is kind of like the Super Bowl of K-12 education. So just congratulations to all the graduates. Thank you to all of the staff and teachers that got them there, and thank you to their parents. Hopefully they will go forth and do great things in our community. Next up, we have our business partner signing. And first up is Ranson Elementary School with Circle K. Mr. Fogel.
There we go. Check 1, 2. You can hear me? We're good? All right. Wonderful. Yes, Jefferson County Schools, along with playing a pivotal role in drawing and supporting new businesses by providing a quality education and quality of life for folks who want to move here and grow their businesses here. But we also rely on them for providing us with students, for supporting us out in the community. And we are so very fortunate to be able to celebrate some of the partnerships that are formally established with our schools. Starting tonight with, as you said, Circle K and Ranson Elementary School. I'd like to invite the AP over at Ranson, Kyle Hine, up, along with Annette Evans, who is representing Circle K this evening. And I have here a certificate of partnership to present them with, recognizing that education is a joint venture with Jefferson County Schools, recognizing that schools are an integral part of the community and an integral part of economic growth, and recognizing that everyone in Jefferson County has a stake in public education, be it known that Circle K and Ranson Elementary School are partners in education. Thank you very much. I'll let both of them speak now to this wonderful new partnership.
Good evening, and I just want to say how excited I am for Circle K to business partner with Ranson Elementary, and honestly, this is the first time I met Annette 10 minutes ago, and it feels like family, like it's just talking ear to ear. So I'm very excited, and just a real quick personal note, I just found out as I drive my daughter to school every day, I've been watching Circle K be built every month, every single day. So it's been neat on the personal side, seeing Circle K being built at the same time, being able to be a partnership with them. Thank you.
First, I want to thank you for having me here tonight. We are very, very excited to come to the community, and I can't voice enough how important it is to partner with not just Ranson, but hopefully the other schools in the community, because our children are our investment in the future, and it is so important. We have a lot of things planned. We want to get involved in a reading program with the children to encourage their reading over the summers and throughout the school year. We would also like to support the sports teams, and we are planning on donating pizzas for prom to the schools out through the communities. Again, thank you so much for having me here. I just can't express enough the wonderful support and just the feedback from this community has been so great for us. We look so forward to serving each and every one of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, and now I'll ask you both to come and sign. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is a partnership between Wildwood Middle School and City National Bank in Ranson. I'd like to invite Jody Brock and Caitlin Cross up front. And both partners agree to support Jefferson County Schools and curriculum goals to include a participative learning component, to have a positive impact on students, and to follow Jefferson County Schools and company policies with flexibility in the partnership. So, we will have to get that signed
Right.
later.
So I just got an email a couple hours ago that they were not able to make it. So I will credit my new assistant principal who started in March with obtaining this new business partner. So within a month and a half, she did something I asked her to. So I think that's a positive move. So one of our goals is to amp up our business partners and get some more use out of the few that we have and find a few more. So we're on the right track.
Thank you very much. We'll get that signed and get that photographed. And really a shout out to all of the businesses that support our schools. We literally could not function without them. So we're grateful for these formal partnerships as well as all of the quiet partnerships that we don't always shine a spotlight on. Speaking of spotlights, it's time for our student recognitions. I'm very excited this evening. It has been a whirlwind, as you know, this past week with senior celebrations, and there are so many things happening as we try to keep up. We have some new championship track teams at Jefferson High School, which is wonderful. Unlike them, I was not fast enough to get them here. Sorry. Dad jokes. But no, really, if you look on some of the pictures and the highlights of that, these students do incredible things, and I'm always a little bummed out with the spring sports that happen right at graduation. So round of applause for those students. Even without that formal recognition here this evening. I would like to invite now Dr. Lee Ebersole, who is the director of our Social Emotional Support Department and the tip of the spear with the annual West Virginia Young Writers Contest. We had some really amazing works. If you've not been to our website, jcswv.org, you can read those in the news section. And Dr. Ebersole is this evening going to introduce those students and talk a bit about this contest that inspires students around the state to write and continue to share stories.
Thank you so much for coming this evening. I'm just so grateful that we're all here to honor storytelling and the real gift of words. You know, one of my favorite authors is Eudora Welty, and she wrote a really, really important book that not a whole lot of people have read, but that's very important to me, and apparently is also a favorite of one of my favorite singers. I was actually out at a concert this past summer, and Mary Chapin Carpenter spoke of her deep love of Eudora Welty, and I just began to cry in the moonlight. How's that for a story? And she talked about how that Eudora wrote about standing in the window as a child with her father and seeing Halley's Comet come above. And then she talked about how that Miss Welty then invited this folk singer when she was more of a hippie. I remember actually falling in love with Mary Chapin Carpenter's work when she sang at a place called, the Hard Rock, but it wasn't the Hard Rock Cafe. It was this, again, kind of backdoor kind of place in Washington, D.C., where she would sing for dollars. At any rate, she told that story, and it really touched my spirit. And I must confess that perhaps the name of this book is unknown to you, so I'll share it now. And it's called One Writer's Beginnings. And this evening, we celebrate some writers' beginnings, where they are now published authors. And we're so grateful to have these individuals with us. And why I bring this book to your attention is the final sentence. And this is what Miss Welty wrote. All true daring begins within. As you all know, as writers, we face either a blank page or a blank screen. And somehow, especially in this world that seems in some ways kind of contentious lately when it comes to words and stories, we have to have the bravery, that everyday courage, to put our thoughts onto paper, or at least to type them. And so we want to honor these young people this evening that did that brave piece, to think that something they had to share, a story, was worth our hearing and reading about. So I'm going to begin this evening by honoring someone who's not here, but I would actually ask Miss Nicholson to join us if she would, and that is to celebrate Abigail Wellings. Abigail actually graduated from this institution yesterday. She is not with us. Oh, you are here, Abigail. I had my spies scanning the room. Well, Abigail, you come on up here rather than Miss Nicholson. I am so sorry. Don't you love a surprise? I love a surprise. Congratulations, dear Abigail. There you are. Let me tell you, if I may, just a little bit about Abigail's story that she's here. It's a remarkable work. It truly is. And it focuses on this idea of having a dream, a place, an island where the sun is. And it focuses on this character called Soul, who has this deep longing to be elsewhere or not. To be honest, is it not? It's a hero's journey because it involves the warrior. And Soul struggles with the warrior. And then, I don't want to give the ending away, he makes a very difficult decision. So, can I invite you to read that? By the way, all of the stories, including Abigail's, are published on our website for your good reading. Thank you, Abigail, for your sharing. I'm so glad you're here. Congratulations, by the way, on being a new Patriot graduate. Thank you so much. Yes, of course, and if you just stay, please, we so appreciate it. Thank you so much. The next friend that we'd like to invite to the stage is Gretchen Brose. Now, I do know that Gretchen is here. And Gretchen is in Mr. Hines' class, and she wrote this beautiful story called American Dream. Now, when you hear about an American dream, that can be sort of a trope, what we English teachers, which I used to be one, kind of call a trope. But let me tell you, in the hands of Gretchen Brose, this is a vital American story. It really is the story of newcomers, and it's a real narrative exploration, very first-person account. It involves coming abroad. It actually has beautiful words in it, and it shows how our names change as we become part of this great American experiment. It's called The American Dream, and it's truly beautiful. Thank you so much for that great narrative set in the early 20th century. Thank you so much. We're so grateful. Thank you. And then, can you see my little piece of paper? That's my little piece of paper. That's okay. Here it is this way. And then we want to invite, if we could, Lindsay Huff. Lindsay, thank you for coming. Now, Lindsay wrote a story that is called I Was Saved. And it's so important, such an important story. Here you go, Lindsay. Thank you. Take this. Congratulations. Could you come stand next to our friend here? It's such an important story that she wrote because it really looks into the eyes and experience of someone who is in the hospital and is truly struggling and what that looks like. And it really is a work that's written in stream of consciousness. And I really encourage you to read it because it really is, it explores deep emotions, deep feelings, a very important piece of writing. Thank you so much, Lindsay. And then if we could invite, please, Macy White. Macy wrote a very special tale. It really really, in some ways, is such a simple story. It's called The Picnic. You're welcome. Come stand here if you would. It's such a special story because it involves that thing of where we call it anthropomorphication. Do you remember that? Anthropomorphication. Do you remember what that is about? It's where you take animals and enliven them and turn them into people. Now, the reason, upon my reading, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that she chose to do that is she wanted to explore their feelings. How did it feel? Because they had this expectation that they came, sort of like when I was hoping to see Abigail and couldn't find her and then was gifted with the surprise of her presence. Her story also ends well in this picnic. It looks, and again, I don't want to give it away, because it truly does have a moral. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Macy's story in just a minute. The next friend, now you never know, this person might show up because they told me they weren't coming, but I'll be surprised. And that is Lila Namalik from Shepherdstown Elementary School. Well, if you don't mind, Mr. Fogel, I'm going to let you receive that on behalf of Lila. Again, Lila likewise wrote a very interesting story. Whereas she did not use animals to tell her story, she actually used the everyday tools of writing, things like pencils and erasers and envelopes, and she gave them the personalities of people and showed how they animate writing. We're very grateful for her work. Could we give another round of applause to Lila Namalik? And now we want to invite to the stage Warren Labrec. If Warren could come join us. Now, Warren and I talked a little bit earlier about the wonderful, remarkable story that he wrote. Could you take this, please? Look how beautiful that is. Congratulations. This young man, you got it there, buddy? Yeah? He wrote a story that was called The Smart Boy. Now, you might look at him and think, well, that was a first-person story. But if you look at the smile on his face, you know that this was actually about another smart boy. Because this is what happened in this beautiful story, this well-told tale, correct? There was this smart boy, and it had sort of a beginning and a middle and an end. In the beginning, the boy was very smart. And then in the middle, the smart boy became very sad because being smart actually caused him to be sad because everybody didn't like him because he was so smart. And then he escaped, and then he was found, and when he was found, he was then smart and glad. The end. Please read it if you wouldn't mind. Thank you, Warren. It's a beautiful story. And then, again, the other thing that reminded me about Miss Eudora's story is I don't know if you know, this is unlike any other competition we have here because it's completely anonymous. I'm sort of like Oz. I know the names of the authors. None of our judges do, none of the teachers who are actually evaluating at the school level. It's all kept in a big secret. And then what happens is the magic reveals itself. That kind of, again, working in solitude and quiet, and then we're rewarded when we don't know. And while all of our friends are truly gifted and talented, we're ever surprised. And don't they look good together, by the way? It's a remarkable, authors can be good looking too. But the thing that I wanted to share is there's actually a very special author among us because unbeknownst to any of us, the story of Macy White was first place in the state of West Virginia. So we are so grateful, and of course, our writers were all traveled to Charleston, but my understanding is that Macy took the stage in Charleston, got to read the story to all the assembled people there at the university. So we want to celebrate all our authors, and we want to give a special congratulations to Macy White. Thank you so much, everyone. Congratulations.
sorry. I think you accidentally put your speaking notes on. All right, I'm going to ask you all to sort of get behind the board there. Parents, this is your chance for photo ops. Fans, too. Don't be shy. Get the good angle. I'll even move the mic stand. And again, if you scroll through the news section, there's a big picture of Ms. White. And all of the authors' works are published there, jcswv.org. And you can read that in the news section. Okay, Shakespeare on 3. 1, 2, 3. Shakespeare. Well done. Anyone else? Pictures, photos? Autographs are available after. Thank you very, very much. And I have made the classic Jefferson County Schools blunder this evening of putting myself up for speaking after Dr. Ebersole. It never goes well for those of us foolish enough to do it, but nonetheless, we are still excited to look at some of the other accomplishments of students in our district. They're active in so many different ways, and most recently, some of our students in the Charlestown Middle School Builders Club held a candidate forum for folks running for office in Charlestown. I would like to invite Karen Scott up. She is the Charlestown Middle School Builder Advisor, to be able to talk a little bit about the work that went into that and then what the students have learned.
Thank you so much, and you all know me. I'm going to turn it over to the kids. You all hear me talk enough. Kathy's laughing at me. All right, Megan, are you first?
With you, Ms. Scott, with you.
Hi, my name is Megan Coltrider. I am the secretary of the Charlestown Middle School Builders Club. I'm here with the president of the club, Ava, and the sergeant of arms, Henry. We are here tonight to talk about our forums that we have done in the past and why we believe they are necessary to be held annually.
As Megan has already stated, I'm Henry Festerman, the current Sergeant of Arms for the Charlestown Middle School Builders Club. I have acted as the moderator for every year that I've been in Builders so far, and hope to continue that tradition for my next 4 years in Key Club. We take time to host these forums each year in order to increase voter awareness and motivate community members to vote in local elections. Forums such as these also work to enhance our youth's understanding of political operations and to get them involved in bureaucratic processes as early as possible.
I'm Ava Bradicke. I'm the president of the Charlestown Middle School Builders Club. The CTMS Builders Club has hosted 4 forums. I have been fortunate enough to help organize 3 of them. Our goal is to inform the public about candidates and to inform the candidates of a younger citizen's perspective. Our long-term goal is to eventually hold a forum for the governor's election.
To conclude, we would like to thank everyone who watched our live stream and everyone who is planning on voting this Thursday. We would also like to thank the Board of Education for recognizing us tonight and allowing us to speak.
You guys going up on stage. I had nothing to do with that. They are taking Key Club by storm next year. I have no doubt that they will be hosting a governor's forum by the time they're seniors.
Well, Mrs. Scott, having been a victim, participant in their forum before, they really do a great job and are very impressive.
They ran the whole thing themselves this year. I did nothing but host it.
All right, photo op for folks who are interested. All right, democracy on 3. 1, 2, 3. Democracy. There we go. Thank you very, very much. Next month, the Knights of the Golden Horseshoe will be knighted in Charleston. We are very excited to be sending 6 Jefferson County School students to Charleston for that opportunity. For anyone who is unaware, Knights of the Golden Horseshoe will recognize more than 200 8th graders for their achievement in knowledge of West Virginia history. It remains the longest running program of its kind in the United States. Approximately 15,000 eighth grade students across West Virginia have been recognized since its inception in 1931. So my understanding was that we were unable to get one of the advisors here, but I would like to recognize nonetheless Ms. Ivy Day from Charlestown Middle School. Is Ivy here? Megan Coltrider from Charlestown Middle School. Ava Brennicke from Charlestown Middle School.
Mr. Fogel, are you going to want them up here for a picture?
Yes, please. I'm sorry. I'm poor at my instructions. Yes, so if you'll come up here for parent and fan photo op, and we'll line up behind the board. Jacob Yoler from Harpers Ferry Middle School. Evelyn Bailey from Shepherdstown Middle School. And Zoe Harper from Wildwood Middle School. Our Knights of the Golden Horseshoe for 2023. So if you'll go right behind the board there, we'll get a picture of you with the board members. All right. Charleston on three. 1, 2, 3. Do any of you know the song with all the counties? My daughter's been singing that nonstop. Grant, Hampshire, Berkeley? Yeah, okay. I'll spare you. Thank you very much. Round of applause again.
Mr. Fogel?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if this is the group that's participating in West Virginia Fest or if it's the History Bowl winners, but evidently we've got some local 8th grade teams that are participating in the West Virginia Fest contest. And my husband happens to be participating in that, and he's competing against his cousin, he's competing against his father, he's competing against his 8th grade history teacher that taught him West Virginia history. But the team he's most afraid of are the actual 8th graders.
I think we're going to meet
So-
some of those kids here in just a little while.
Take it easy on him because I have to live with him, please. Just a little bit.
All I could think of was Charleston. I was going to be like 1863, and it was too much. They keep you on your toes because you try to stay ahead. Up next, we have a very special opportunity to recognize a Girl Scout who is doing her Gold Award to help other students in Jefferson County Schools. I'd like to introduce Haley Kern, who is the Jefferson County Schools PERC, or Parent Educator Resource Coordinator, and she is going to introduce this very special student who can talk more about her project. Mr. Johnson will be giving us some visual samples up on the board there.
Thank you. Well, it's no secret that we have some pretty incredible young people in Jefferson County. And it always makes me happy when I have the opportunity to introduce you to one such amazing person. Sarah reached out to us because she was working toward a Girl Scout Award. And not just any award, but the Gold Award. And for those of you who are not familiar with Girl Scouting, the Gold Award is the absolute highest award that a Girl Scout can earn within her career. It involves researching, it involves developing a project that will benefit her community and beyond. So the folks who win or who earn through a lot of work this Gold Award are truly the game changers, they're the world changers, they're the rock stars, they are our future leaders. And Sarah has taken on a really special project that's near and dear to my heart, but I'm simply going to say one thing and then I will turn it over to her. Sarah's initiative has sparked a plan to embrace not only what she has done, but to expand it to many other schools in our county as well. So on that note, I want to introduce you to Miss Sarah Brousseau.
Hello, my project is a communication board that I'm going to install at TA Lowry. I'm hoping to start the installation in June, and The installation will, I'm going to start it in June. The communication board is to help children with language limitations. Up on the board are the ones I'm planning to use for TA Lowry. They're to help the children with language limitations be able to communicate with their peers and staff and faculty, because I think it's important for children to be able to communicate, because it's, especially when they're younger, it's very important that they make connections with other people, and it really affects them later in life. So I just wanted to do that for my Gold Award. And it's really exciting that after the installation, it'll carry out further into other schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you can go up and just stand at the door over the picture. We've had a really, I think, inspiring year with students, helping other students and stepping up to use their skills to support and grow these programs. Some of the seeds that kids are planting now, I think, are going to continue to grow in Jefferson County schools for generations to come. So, Sarah, thank you very much. Here is the photo op with Sarah. For anyone who'd like to come up, I'll get my head out of the way in 2 seconds. Gold Award on 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right, now for a horse of a different color. I'd like to invite Mrs. Caitlin Grantham and Ms. Charity Marsteller from Washington High School and Jefferson High School, respectively. They teach agriculture and are the FFA advisors, and their students have done a remarkable thing that they will tell you all about.
You would think we'd be prepared, but we're not. So our students on April 1st competed in the West Virginia State FFA horse judging and hippology contests held at the R.W. Ruby Memorial Farm in Reedsville, West Virginia. We traveled down on Friday night. They competed, I don't know, the contest was what felt like 2 days. It was 12 hours on a really windy and stormy day, and the girls pushed through that. We thought about coming home early, and they wanted to stay, and we're really glad that we stayed. The horse judging contest consists of them judging 6 classes. So 3 of them are a halter class, which is judged on the conformation of the horse. And then the other 3 classes were performance classes where there was a rider, and they rode horses around, and the girls had to evaluate them based on that. Then they also had 2 classes of oral reasons where they had to justify how they placed classes to a, I think it was 1 or 2 judges. And then after that, the second contest that they competed in that day was hippology, which is knowledge of horses. So there were different stations that they traveled around to. They took a written exam. They had different stations where they had to ID different parts of a horse or different tools of a horse, and tack and things like that. At Washington, this was the first year that I've actually trained a horse judging team, so I wasn't really sure exactly what to expect. But we had all of our girls on the horse judging team placed in the top 10 in the horse judging contest individually. I guess if you guys want to come up, 2 of our members of that team are here. So Hannah Howell placed 9th in horse judging individually. Madison O'Brien placed 6th individually. Madison Roggenkamp, who's not here tonight, she placed 3rd individually, and Ruby Plummer placed 2nd individually. Do you want to do your horse judging, or do you want to do hippology and then you go? In the hippology contest, Madison O'Brien finished 6th individually. Madison Roggenkamp was 1st place individually, and Ruby was 2nd individually. And then as a team, our FFA, these girls, they placed 1st in both contests. So they will represent the state of West Virginia at National Convention in November. And I think Charity would say the same thing. Our teams put in a lot of time. We started practicing in January. And just, the long haul, it was, roughly 3 months of practice and dedication, plus spending that whole entire day there in the freezing cold, wearing their official dress, which is not warm, and competing and doing that well speaks volume to the kids that we have. So, Charity, I guess.
Well, Caitlin pretty much told you about the whole contest, but I would like to say that we kept it all in Jefferson County. And as you know, we have a pretty strong equine industry here, especially for the state of West Virginia. So my students didn't disappoint either. I have 2 of them out of the 4 here. Briley Bauer was not able to come, and Abby Shanley, who placed 8th individually. Come on up, girls. And Ashley Studi, who was 4th individual, and then Macy Dunn, who was 1st individual. So as a team, they were 2nd overall. So we had 1st and 2nd place here in Jefferson County, so we're pretty proud of them.
I need a fireman's pole. All right. Giddy up on 3. Nay? Oh, man, I should have. See? All right, 1, 2, 3. Oh, I should have said hey on 3. All right, one more. All right, thank you very, very much.
Don't go anywhere. You want a picture too? I got one. Oh, I didn't. Hold on, I don't want the mic. Thank you.
And I guess that is the product of, celebrity teachers, when you have 2 teachers of the year teaching.
Right, and I know at least one of those students has already signed up for our Grow Your Own program to eventually become an elementary school teacher, hopefully here in Jefferson County. Her brother graduated over the weekend, and her parents blew my mind this evening when they said she'll be a senior next year. And I was like, that's not possible, but it's long days and short years for all of us in the education industry and all of us parents. Well, up next, as they say, is history. Charlestown Middle School history teacher Keith Moody is here to introduce a blast from the past. We have West Virginia History Bowl champs from our middle schools. And I'll let Mr. Moody talk a bit more about that, as well as some of the upcoming challenges they have from folks in the community. Mr. Moody?
Thank you for having me tonight. I'm here to talk about the West Virginia History Bowl program. This has been a program that has been going on in the state for about 12 years now. I believe Jefferson County has been involved for about, 10 years?
9 years.
Ms. Skinner was the first team that we threw together at the very last minute, I believe, and she knows firsthand how difficult it is and how much time the students put into it to compete at the state level. It was just 2 years ago where we had our first team from the county advance to states, and that was Shepherdstown Middle School. It was the year of COVID, I believe, that they advanced to states. They also advanced last year. This year, we were fortunate enough to have 3 teams from Jefferson County advance to states. So 3 of the 24 teams came from Jefferson County. And then when we went to states, we had a team from Shepherdstown Middle School finished in 5th place, and Charlestown Middle School finished in 4th place in the states. So it is the best turnout that we've done. So these students have been working all year long towards this. They have one more competition, and that is at the West Virginia Fest, Are You Smarter Than an 8th Grader? They have heard that the adults are really talking a lot of competitive nature. So they are kicking it into high gear to make sure that they can compete at West Virginia Fest, which is June 17th downtown at Charlestown for anybody that can make it. But at this time, I'd like to introduce the students from Charlestown Middle School. All right, so the team from Charlestown Middle School, the team captain was Ava Brennicke. The next person actually placed all tournament team at the state competition, and that is Caitlin Moody. Maggie Slover is unable to be here today, but I'd like to give a round of applause to Maggie Slover. The next person on the team is Aiden Purvis. And last but not least, Ardella Brown. I would also like to announce the team from Shepherdstown that finished in 5th place at States. I don't believe that they are here today, but Lincoln Shriver, Tegan Moulton, and Tegan Moulton actually also finished in the all-tournament team at the state competition as well. Hemi Stevens, and Andrew Rolfe. And Shepherdstown Team 2 also qualified for the state competition, and their competitors was Isabella Herrera, Lyric Borer, Jocelyn Fikert, and Evelyn Bailey. Thank you.
All right, time for a photo op. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Brennecke, but this is a board recognition hat trick for you. Is that 3 this evening? Yeah. All right. Okay, I'll give you the advice my European history teacher gave me. When in doubt, Treaty of Paris. So Treaty of Paris on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Treaty of Paris.
There were enough of them. Thank you very, very much. Anyone else?
And Mr. Moody, when my husband saw your daughter's name on the list, he decided not to contact you as a tutor, just so you know.
That concludes our recognitions. Again, we are refining our process to try to make sure that all students are recognized. It's incredibly important to us that you get to see the fruits of your labor. It's all about the kids at the end of the day. That is what we put first in everything that we do, and so taking an opportunity to recognize them for what they are achieving, I think, is paramount. So thank you very much for giving us the time at the start of the meeting for recognizing the students, and thanks to the students and families for coming out this evening. Thank you.
All right, next up we have the Deputy Superintendent of Operations update, Mrs. Joyce White.
Good evening. I have several updates for you this evening. The first is in attendance. Ms. Pearl completed her Family Strengthening Series with a small but mighty group of parents who gave wonderful feedback about her program. Moving forward next year, we'd like to increase the participation, so we're currently devising ways to do so. We're considering ideas to work together with other programs such as Ms. Lynn's STEAM program in order to blend activities that students can do while parents learn more about nurturing hearts. Ms. Pearl is going to begin her summer by attending the State Attendance Directors Conference. She's preparing for beginning of the year training for attendance secretaries and assistant principals, and she's collaborating with Communications Department to create a short video which emphasizes the importance of attendance. All of our directors and coordinators are busy preparing for the summer, so there's going to be a little theme this evening. Most of them, such as Dylan Bites in Child Nutrition, J.R. Holland, and Brandon Caton, are just preparing for summer school or summer maintenance projects. So, Mr. Bites, speaking of Mr. Bites in Child Nutrition, has begun, will conduct training for summer meals program on June 9th ahead of the summer school start. He's in the process of installing the fence. I know I've been talking to you about the micro orchard for that orchard ahead of planting the trees. That will occur over summer break while the students are off-site. He's currently testing, he's partnered with the technology department, an updated point of service called Express Point. And he's piloted that in a small way so that next year we're up and running. And it is our new point of service. We're very excited about working with that program this year and simplifying that for the students for next year. We're also excited because there's some grant funding available as part of a cooperative agreement with the USDA. And it's the Food and Nutrition Services Healthy Meals Incentives Initiative Action for Healthy Kids. They're offering competitive grants to small or rural school food authorities in order to improve nutritional quality of the school meals. So we're writing a proposal that will seek to hire an executive chef for a 1-year period, and that chef would develop nutritious meals on a 5-week cycle. We're excited because if selected and awarded, not only do our students benefit, but we have the State Department support to share that out across West Virginia to other counties. So fingers crossed that we're able to take advantage of that opportunity. In technology, the Jefferson County sound system is up and running, and I've heard it sounds great, although I haven't had the opportunity to hear it myself. I see Lori saying she has, so that's wonderful. Washington's sound system is complete but not operational. As I often say to you, back order delay. The microphones are on back order, but as soon as they're in, it will be up and running as well. Technology for the summer is going to be moving domains, and they are excited about doing so. It does require effort on the part of the staff, which we've been communicating to staff in our schools for quite some time because it requires some downtime. The department has to collect and reimage all laptop and desktop computers in the county. Student Chromebooks won't be affected by the change, and the domain change is necessary because our domain is at the end of life and there are increased security needs and a required server update. Additionally, we're preparing for Windows 11 as Windows 10 is going to near the end of life in the future, and as it does so, we don't want it to arrive there and not be unprepared. So that's a very big project for them, and they're working on standardizing our devices and consistency across all schools in the district, and that's going to lead technology to have a quicker response time. So they wanted me to convey that they're thankful to the staff of Jefferson County for their cooperation in helping them through the process. We're also gearing up for audio recording devices to go into private areas of special needs classroom, and this is due to House Bill 3271, audio and self-contained classrooms. So the cabling is completed. That will also be a project that's completed over the summer. Interestingly enough, such devices did not exist, and vendors had to create the devices, and so we have secured a vendor who's ready to go with the devices, and we expect to meet requirements by August 1, 2023. It is in effect June 7th, but we have till August 1st, and we're going to be compliant by that time. Reunification exercise. This morning was exciting. I got to run around in the field, and believe it or not, that's really exciting for me. But I got to do so with students from Shepherdstown Middle School, who, in cooperation with Mrs. Horn, participated in an exercise where they were willing to come on buses. Several buses arrived at our reunification site, and students got off the buses, and we went through an entire exercise as if they had to evacuate their schools. We had parents participate in the exercise. There were 46 parents who came, went through the exercise, gave us great feedback. First responders were there, Homeland Security. We had the Jefferson County Sheriff there. We want to thank him for that, as well as officers from the department, our own SRO, Sergeant Ben Williams. And we had an SRO participate from Berkeley County, which was really exciting. He was the Hedgesville SRO, and he came to observe and learn, but also he was there. The primary role was to provide support should we need to evacuate. We have cooperation with Berkeley County police officers to help in any event we need to evacuate a school. So afterwards, we had a debrief. Of course, when you do those exercises, the whole purpose is what are we strong in, what do we need to improve upon. So we were able to do a debrief that gave us great feedback for the next time we do it. That is our second exercise of the year, by the way. We started with a grade level, and then we started with a small middle school. So we hope to continue to practice, and I have to say the students are great in these exercises. So it was great to see them out there today. For transportation, I just want to highlight, and I know I say this to you often, but I don't feel often enough. I want to recognize them for their continued success, for not missing a single run and failing to get a single student to school, because they work hard every day in light of staff shortages. From time to time people are absent. So they work very hard to make that schedule work, and they are genius at getting it done. And sometimes that means you hear my voice in dispatch, which is great. I like to go out and do that again because I'm the only one left there. So I provide that kind of support, and whatever support they need, I know Dr. Gibson Learn does as well, and it's much appreciated. But every single day they get it done. And since it's the end of the year, I just want to talk about service personnel in general and what they bring to the school system, because they're always behind the scenes, but they're an ever important presence in getting things done. They get it done whether people are absent or not. Our schools are clean. Our meals are always well prepared, on time and hot for the students. And I could go on and sing their praises. But they are very much behind the scenes, but I like to, from time to time, just say that out loud because they deserve praise and recognition for all they do. And I am appreciative, as are everyone who works with them in Jefferson County Schools. And finally, Ranson School is under construction. I'm just going to end it right there. I am so excited. I told Dr. Gibson Learn I just wanted to bring my hard hat in with my name on it and sit it here and let you wonder the whole time why I had a hard hat here. But Ranson has started, so I'm very, very excited about that.
That's quite the mic drop. Thank you.
It was, yes.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
The last time you came, I believe you were expecting an update from the SBA about Shepherdstown, the funding.
Right, and I'm going to hold on that because there really isn't much to update you on that I can discuss right now, but it's going in a positive direction, so I'll leave it at that for us this evening, and as soon as I have information to relay to the board, I'm happy to provide that to you.
My other question is about the healthy meals. Are they only offering it to one district?
So far in West Virginia, my understanding is that we're the only one making an application, so I'm really hopeful that we get it, but I will keep you updated.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I know you know what I'm going to ask.
I do know, and I think it's probably about cameras.
It is.
Okay, go ahead.
So I just wanted to see, as soon as the state approves the budget, will you be able to provide a list of schools that will get cameras, when they will get them?
Yes,
So
I'm
forth and
happy
so
to
on.
update the board over our rubric. We did a rubric of need, so I'm happy to update you about that and to explain to you why we prioritized the way we did so and how far the money will go.
Okay.
Yes, and the nice thing is that we can keep funding it and we can keep addressing the need. And I have found that while it seems slow in the beginning, if we're able to keep doing that, and we've done that with several things, all of a sudden, it's not a need anymore. We're just, I call it, Ms. Bratton, sort of like, we don't want to operate in emergency maintenance, and we have a lot of things in the school system that are nearing the end of life, and so if we can work our way out of that, and the board has done so by generously putting pots of money aside so that we can operate out of that, then it gets us into more of a proactive maintenance phase, and that's certainly where I like to be. I know Mr. Caton does too.
Right. And then some of them aren't even maintenance issues. They just don't have them. So.
Well,
right.
every school does have cameras.
No. Ransom said they didn't have one in the back, and Wildwood does not have one in the front.
Ransom
so.
does have cameras. It might not be where the positioning. They might want extra positioning, but yeah. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. We
You're welcome.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
I think it was
All right.
broken. The one in the back is what he told us.
Next up, we have the approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting held May 8th, 2023, and the special board meetings held May 3rd, 4th, 9th, 10th, 12th, and 13th, 2023?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Is there a second?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a concern about the May 13th minutes. It doesn't reflect that the board agreed to meet on May 17th to, for further questioning of the candidates. I would think that that would be included.
Well, there'll be minutes from the May 17th meeting. I mean, we
Right,
never-
but in this meeting, we agreed to meet on the 17th.
We scheduled a meeting on the 17th, but it doesn't need to be reflected in the minutes because it's a separate meeting. And
Well, because my concern is that we have another meeting on Wednesday at 5:15, and again, this is not being Zoomed for the public, and it's not clear the purpose. I asked the purpose of it. It's about accepting the contract, but we still haven't had a public vote on a new superintendent. So are we voting that day?
yes, ma'am, and
Okay.
I sent that to you.
But no, it says the contract. It doesn't say we're voting on picking a candidate. I just wanted to make sure that was clear because people complained that they couldn't get into the meeting. And that's why I felt like it should be clearly stated in these minutes that we were planning to have that meeting, because it was listed that we were having the meeting, but it wasn't stated in these minutes. And I just want to make sure that it's clear what this meeting is on Wednesday, and if we are clearly voting for a superintendent on that day in public, because what happened at that meeting was not held in public. And so I just want to make sure I'm following the rules.
And that's correct, and that's because of the fact that this superintendent search, we all signed confidentiality agreements that we would not discuss anything that took place in the superintendent search. These were superintendent interviews. They were private executive session interviews. We had a follow-up meeting the following Wednesday for additional clarification questions for candidates. And then this coming Wednesday, we are having, I believe it's Wednesday, we're having an additional meeting to, and I believe the verbiage was approve a superintendent contract. Hopefully at that point, we will be able to approve the contract for a chosen candidate as well as give out the name publicly. However, we need to make sure that the candidate is ready to have their name publicly released.
Right. I just want to be sure that we will be voting on a candidate publicly, because what was done was not public. So it was an executive session.
We don't vote in executive session.
We
go
came
back
out.
into
I know,
executive.
and that's my
What
concern.
does this have to do with the minutes?
We didn't.
Madam President, what does this have to do with the minutes that we have on the floor? Can I call for a vote on that?
You can.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes from May 8th, May 3rd, 4th, 9th, 10th, 12th, and 13th. Any further discussion on those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Oppose.
Oppose.
Thank you. Next up, we have citizens' comments. First, we have Bobby Block, followed by Joy Gutzman. And just a reminder that speakers are limited to 3 minutes, and speakers are prohibited from making negative or derogatory comments using a name or position by which an individual can be identified. Comments may not be threatening, profane, vulgar, or abusive, or the speaker will be required to cease his or her comments, please. So first up, Mr. Johnson, do we have Bobby Block online? Ms. Block, can you hear us? Ms. Block, you're muted. If you could unmute, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Whenever you're ready, please.
Thank you. Good evening. The children most in need are unable to attend tonight's meeting, asking additional questions on their behalf, hoping you've had the previous questions in your heart and are open to move forward in the light to ensure the safety of all those at risk. I am praying you take these questions seriously and share them with the new superintendent. The questions being asked continue to be heartfelt. Trust that you will take each question to both your head and heart, knowing that all children need to be safe, deserving clean air, water, and an environment. A loving, soulful response is required. The golden rule necessary, jeopardizing the future of our community due to corporate greed, is too high a price to pay. How many children in Jefferson County schools suffer from asthma? How many more will suffer respiratory illness due to toxic emissions? Do you know anyone who has suffered from asthma and respiratory illness and have trouble breathing? I am hearing the student, teachers, and staff, parents echoing George Floyd's cry for help. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Your courage to respond to those cries for help are needed. What's stopping you? You have the answers and authority to help. What type of plans are being implemented to assist families overwhelmed with the challenges of asthma? Are you aware that students have shown that children with special needs are more sensitive to toxic exposure? Due to that fact, what steps are school administrators taking to protect the most vulnerable population? What actions does the school system intend to take when children experience eye irritation? How is the school system ensuring that families can enroll and maximize the children's health programs? What about the health impact on staffs, teachers, and families? How will you implement drills for possible active toxics exposure? Is a plan in place, and how is it being shared with families? Toxics going up in the air, falling to the ground, and leaking into the watershed will be polluting the earth as a whole. Have you tested the areas around the schools, and what were the results? Farmers have expressed concern, and toxicologists have shown that the toxins will impact on crops and livestock. How will that result in the availability of nutritional meals? Jefferson County is falling victim to PFAS, forever chemicals. What steps are being taken to mitigate these health risks? How will the BoE be remembered by history?
Thank you, Ms. Block. Next up is Joy Gutzman, followed by Nicola Bastian.
Ms. Gutzman had a conflict.
Okay, she's not here this evening. Thank you. So next up is Nicola Bastian, followed by Jacqueline Milron. Good evening.
Good evening. I didn't think I would return to address the school board again, but here we are. And Bobby Block kind of hinted at the subject I'm talking about in terms of closing a circle and addressing the pilot program. As I said, it is difficult for me to understand that we are at this point again. I almost feel like taking the 3 minutes and just standing here to express how difficult I find it to be in that position of even thinking that of the possibility of this board accepting the pilot program. I refer to a quote I got from the Spirit that I think should set the tone as to why this is an unacceptable proposition. Here is Mr. Chris Sternhagen saying, without a pilot, the project doesn't move forward. What kind of pressure politics is that? Is that acceptable to any one of you? I know why you say you can't feel fuzzy, or what this little strange quote in here is, warm and fuzzy you want to feel. And I almost pray that you will not feel warm and fuzzy until you say, absolutely not. These people get the land cheap. They get the flattest, most beautiful land, which makes it very cheap to build these solar projects. Because normally, the West Virginia state recommended that it be put on hills or on brown fields, or you know the spiel. You've heard it before. So for me, that anybody even listens to those type of pressure politics, when we know there is increasing development, we higher need of schools. I go to the planning commission of the Charlestown, a whole bunch more apartments are going up, and houses and buildings. And when somebody asks them, well, where are the schools for the kids to go to, they say, that's none of our business. So I feel with you. I feel with the school board. But please, please, take that money that otherwise will have to be again paid for by the taxpayers. So the taxpayers de facto would be subsidizing these high-profit companies. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up is Jacqueline Milleron.
Good evening. As you know, West Virginia American Water has agreed to purchase Jefferson Utilities Incorporated for a sum that exceeds $30 million. There have been no updates in that case before the Public Service Commission of West Virginia. It might interest you to know that American Water applied for a rate increase on March 31st of this year and is assigned case number 230383. The amount of increased revenue requested by American Water is about $41 million. The Consumer Advocate Division of West Virginia and the Kanawha County Commission have requested to intervene. Several public bodies and individuals have written letters of protest. It should be no surprise that there is a perceived coincidence in the rate increase and the price tag that American Water is willing to pay, which nears 3 times JUI's net book value. The reason for American Water's willingness to pay top shelf prices is unclear, except that it inflates their asset portfolio for borrowing power on the convenient backs of captive investors, all the while enhancing ESG BlackRock-style subsidies to acquire water rights, dominance, and lucrative Jefferson. In the acquisition case, Jefferson Utilities were required to submit a list of assets. Among the assets was an extension line to serve Shipley Elementary School. In March, I submitted a Freedom of Information Act request for documents to Jefferson County Schools. After several weeks, I was surprised that there were no documents in possession of JCS regarding the hookup of Shipley Elementary School to JUI water system, except for an easement agreement between JCS and JUI containing no project financial disclosures of the cost to JCS for the significant pipe extension for service now reported as an asset to JUI and being sold to American Water. The easement agreement was signed in early 2023 by JCS, but the project for the extension service hookup was performed in around late summer of 2022, according to billing records. How did that happen? My question is, who paid for the extension to Shipley, JUI or JCS? If it was JCS, who paid? Who paid? Why is there only one document showing an easement agreement with no financial cost workup? If JCS didn't pay for it, then JUI is now selling as a private asset performed for a public institution, but paid by rate money instead of tax money. The question remains then, why didn't JCS pay through public funds for the extension project just like they did with Driftwood Elementary? In my FOIA, I requested all documents, including emails regarding this specific topic. I was told that I had to provide specific names of email accounts. Well, let me ask you, how was I supposed to do that?
Ms. Belron, thank you very much. It's your time. Thank you. All right, next we have the consent agenda.
Good evening. In front of you, we have the consent agenda for the personnel actions that we're presenting to the board tonight without any changes on it from the posting.
Are there any changes or deletions?
No changes. Thanks.
All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as is?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Joy. Any discussion?
I just had a real quick question, Amy. The transfer reassignment positions, 14, 15?
Yes.
So were those are part of the budget, I'm assuming, where they're not positions that we were not going to fill but now are going to fill?
No. So basically what happened in that situation is the two were identified for transfer, but two have already, after we did the transfer list, two already moved out into other positions, so now these don't have to remain on the transfer list. So we can take them off the transfer list and put them back into their jobs without any changes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, hearing no other questions, all in favor of approving the consent agenda as is, say aye.
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 Oppose? Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, next we have unfinished business. A, action on approval of the response protocol for racial slurs policy.
Yes, ma'am. As noted at the last presentation, we have had a work group of concerned parents, teachers, and service personnel working throughout the year on a number of discipline initiatives, and I had presented to you last time this particular protocol specific to racial slurs. We put it out for public comment. We've given the board copies of that public comment. We had just over 30 comments from the public, and they really fell into a couple of categories. First, they were uniformly supportive of the fact that there should not be use of racial slurs in our schools, that we should not tolerate that. And so there was not opposition for us having a protocol for racial slurs. There was, however, a great deal of comment and concern that this policy was geared particularly towards racial slurs when many members of the public, teachers, and parents who responded said, we would like to see a host of other things that are covered as well. We would like to see you expand this into other areas. There were comments on there about children who've been fat shamed. There were comments about children who had been given slurs on the basis of their sexuality, a whole host of other issues that they felt like they understood the direction that we were going in. They did not feel that those had a place in schools, but they wanted to see the policy become more comprehensive. There was also a number of suggestions in there that, while they appreciated we were attempting to give teachers both some guidance and support and still have some flexibility, that they wanted to see a much higher degree of specificity. Could we have examples of these things? Now, while we were going through this process, and not this past meeting, but 2 meetings before that, there's recent legislation, House Bill 2890 was passed, and that spoke to discipline in schools. And when I'd given the presentation, but I will remind everyone that in HB 2890, it said each county board is required to implement a tiered system policy with teacher input to provide a framework for student behaviors and punishments. The policy shall be clear and concise with specific guidelines and examples. So essentially, since we started that process, we've now been tasked with having an advisory committee with teacher presence in that to put together a tiered system of discipline that has very specific triggers, very specific responses, and examples of what that looks like. So it is my suggestion to the board. I think that part of what spurred the specificity in this was a group of parents who had some concern that if they didn't bring it to the board separately, that it might be lost in a host of other things. So my suggestion would be to the board is that if you take any action this evening, that your action would be to require the discipline committee to incorporate a protocol for racial slurs into the larger discipline program that they submit to you, because before the start of school, that discipline committee will have to submit to this board a policy that meets those requirements under the law in terms of the tiers, in terms of specific behaviors, in terms of response, and in terms of examples. And I think that that would be a good balance between ensuring that the people who felt this was very important and needed to be addressed, and the needs of this committee and the law to say, here's this other body of work that you have to commit to. I think the board taking action and voicing that requirement will meet the criteria for both of those and honor all of these comments that wanted to see it part of a larger, more comprehensive, and very specific, concise discipline policy.
I think that's a good idea. I just have a couple concerns.
Yes, ma'am.
didn't feel that racial slurs are, maybe a word, but I feel like there's racial aggression, like putting a sign on a student's locker or saying statements like happened last week at a school to an Asian child, are you having cat for lunch? That's not a racial slur, but it's a form of aggression of some sort based on race. And then, but we would also need to include those other things in this discipline policy about sexual preference, weight, sexual identity, religion. So any sort of aggression towards a child that I guess shows bias. I don't know what a good definition would be, but I definitely think we need to cover all of those areas. I thought the citizens' comments were exceptional. I was really happy that we got some good widespread comments, variety of people. But those are my bits of input.
Yes, ma'am, and I can certainly share that with the Discipline Advisory Committee. They, as you well know, they've been working for some time now. They have much work before them, and the board certainly, they work at the will and pleasure of this board, and you can give them an additional direction. But I'll share with them the results of whatever you determine this evening for them to move forward with as well.
And they're also privy to the state new mandates that they're coming down with starting July 1st and all of that good stuff, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, they are. They are.
Okay. So you're just asking for a motion tonight to require the Disciplinary Advisory Committee to incorporate this into their discipline program. Is that what you're asking for?
And I would certainly say I wouldn't necessarily say that you have to do it as is, because formatting wise for more specificity, but I do think that it would be meaningful. You saw the group of parents who came last time, and this is a concern that's near and dear to their heart. I do think that if you as a board stated that you want to take action, that racial slurs will be a specific category within that discipline advisory, along with others, as Dr. Joy had stated, that even if it's not going to be this policy, they will know that it's taken seriously, that it's being addressed, that it will be a part of that.
Okay, so is there a motion to require the Discipline Advisory Committee to incorporate a racial slurs policy in their disciplinary program?
I make a motion on that.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Joy. Any further discussion?
Yeah, so you're going to also have them include these other categories in the discipline policy, correct? Not just the racial slurs, but...
I am going to give them all of the information that you just shared with me. They do anything that is covered in terms of that's currently something that would qualify for discipline in our school has to be covered. That policy, if it is something that we don't allow, it has to be covered in that policy. So I will give them that information. I'll copy to the board so that the discipline committee can also, they'll come forward with you with any requests for clarification. You can ask them for updates at any time so that you can see it as a work in progress. They are required to give you an update in July based on the timing that you gave them last time.
And can you also share with them the public comments that we got on this policy?
Yes, ma'am. I can do that. Yes, ma'am, certainly.
All right.
I think that would probably help them be able to
I
develop
like the idea of the
what's
tiered
needed.
system. I think this idea that I mentioned last time about, like a hate crime type, where, if there is a fight or a secondary violence that stems from any sort of discriminatory behavior, that an extra penalty is added to give the message that there's a zero tolerance.
Certainly the tiered system is something that we've been working towards for a while. We've been bound by West Virginia's 2373, which is for those of you who've seen it, is so incredibly broad. it for everything. It's basically, oh, you talk to a kid and say, don't do that again, and you can, all the way down to you can expel them. I mean, it is a very, very long, sort of like a laundry list. So I think it will be enormously helpful, number one, to separate elementary from middle from high. That was the work of the committee, the discipline committee that we've been working with all year long. I also think, to your point, that there need to be tiers based on the seriousness of the offense, based on a number of other factors. And our principals do that well, but I think it will have a lot more uniformity, and I think it will be a lot better informed by the teachers who are having to work through and deal with this every single day, and give them a lot more support and certainty about what should happen for different behaviors. So I can give all of that feedback, and I do appreciate it. I think it's a great idea for them anonymously to get the public comments.
Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the superintendent search update. The only update we have is we have a meeting scheduled for Wednesday at 5:15, and hopefully at that point we can vote on a contract for a new superintendent. Next, we have request approval of a vendor for Harpers Ferry Middle School drainage improvements.
We had 3 qualified pre-bidders for this project. 2 made a bid for the project. Mangini's at $49,200 and Snyder Environmental at $157,206. Our recommendation to complete the project is Mangini's.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a motion to approve Mangini's for the Harpers Ferry Middle School drainage improvement of $49,200?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of approving Mangini's for the Harpers Ferry Middle School drainage improvement, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next up, new business, request approval for an RFP for special education services.
Good evening, President and members of the board. Dr. Gibson Learn. Tonight I come before you on behalf of T.A. Lowry. The request for proposal was developed by T.A. Lowry's leadership team, principal, and teachers. Mrs. Martin was not able to be here tonight, so I am acting on her behalf. From year to year, the West Virginia Department of Education reviews the balanced scorecard and compares the data to other districts in West Virginia. As a result of the data reviews from the last 3 years consecutively, T.A. Lowry has been identified as red on the academic indicators in the special education subgroup in both English and mathematics. We take those results very seriously and have been working closely with TA staff on what resources they need to support our students with disabilities. It is important to understand, though, that the data that is reflected in the balanced scorecard is not always effective for our supports. For instance, T.A. Lowry supports 2 groups of our most profound learners through the PMI and MMI classroom. Students in grades K through 5 are not always identified for the alternative diploma track. So as long as they are not on the alternative diploma track, they are held to the same standard as every other student across the board, and they are judged on the WVGSA. You would know as well as I do that students that are on the track are not necessarily going to reach their full potential as bound by the WVGSA. It should also be noted that 19% of the population at T.A. Lowry is identified as students with disabilities. This RFP is being placed to solicit proposals for the purpose of providing T.A. Lowry staff with high-quality special education evaluation and supportive services. The professional development will be provided school-wide for the purpose of providing a greater continuum of services for special education students to advance the rigor of curriculum as presented to all students in all subjects. The funds for, as you see on the sheet, the funds for the 2022-2023 school year were not provided to the school district until April 26th of 2023. So it's kind of it's a misnomer there as to what that really stands for. But we do have until November 30th of 2023 to encumber and liquidate those funds off. Furthermore, I do want to let the board know that the funding that will be used for all these projects is provided by the state of West Virginia and can only be used for these purposes that TA Lowry deems that they want. It cannot be pushed somewhere else, so it's not funds that we're pulling out of the general ledger or anything like that. So at this time, I will open to questions from either the presentation or the one-page flyer you have.
I have a question. So you're saying that we don't have to budget for it, that it's a separate funding source?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So the 2022-2023 school year, and then the 23-24 school year, and then the next year will be to be determined. Correct. It is not something you need to budget for. It is West Virginia state funded and is already in our ledger.
And you're asking for 2 special ed coordinators? Is that what you're asking for?
No, ma'am. So the West Virginia Department of Education team, they provide us with 2 special education coordinators as well as a school improvement coordinator that comes on staff, on site twice a year. They do their review. They provide feedback to the staff as well as to the district.
Okay.
So we are not asking for any additional staff. We're asking, TA Lowry is asking for consulting services for the reasons that we define, including bringing up the rigor. So the 3 things that the team, this West Virginia Department team came in and said is that we need to look at rigor of instruction, we need to look at co-teaching implementation, and we need to look at increasing student engagement. Those are the 3 things that were identified that also fit to the West Virginia standards for effective schools. So they kind of gave us a little bit of a tight constraint on what we can choose.
Okay, so the state recognized issues.
Yes, ma'am.
And they let the school know.
Yes, ma'am.
And then they said, we have these services, but the board has to agree to accept these services?
No, ma'am. They said that here are your funds, and now TA Lowry's
can
leadership
spend
team
them.
decides how would you like to incorporate that funds to make your school reach that next level of success.
So, and those funds that they give, which you're asking for a third party?
Yes, ma'am. I'm asking for an outside consulting firm to come in that will provide professional development, on-site training, as well as follow-up trainings for the students. I would liken this similar to when a school is defined as a Title I school. We put Title I interventionists in there just for this purpose, to move that needle where we want it to be. That would be the same thing that I'm looking at, is this school is identified. They can go off of the ATS school, and they can go to a CSI school, which is a more intensive level. Right now, they're just a targeted school. They're not a defined school.
Why wouldn't the SOMO department or the special ed department do these things that you're trying to get a third party to do?
So the scope of what we're asking to be done here is really outside of the focus of the teams that we have to provide the in-depth co-teaching, to provide the rigor of instruction at the level at which the state is looking at. We do go in and we do support those things. We do run professional development at the beginning of the year. However, to come back and really dedicate the time, and it should also be noted that Mrs. Martin does want to bring back IPI. She does want to bring back total participation techniques. She does want to do book studies. So all of the funds are not geared towards this consulting agency or this professional development team coming in. She does have other scaffolded professional development she wishes to do, including professional days. She's used a couple of professional days already to help build the master schedule out to be able to bring the co-teaching model in ways that it has not been done in the past. And she is also will be utilizing her instructional coach there for a lot of these services too. So our hope is that we bring this consulting, I shouldn't say consulting firm, we bring this group in, they lay the groundwork for where we are, and then we take on that kind of train-the-trainer model where our people that are on the boots on the ground at TA can then take it and go forth with it and keep replicating it and replicating and replicating it so that we don't have to continue to spend the funds out when this money's not available to us.
Who is the group?
We don't have a group.
Oh.
That's why we want to put the RFP out to solicit bids. So we don't have a group We know that there are groups out there. We know that there are many groups out there or many consulting agencies that do these things, but I don't have anybody to say, this is who we are going to contract with. We have to put that out.
And would this money that the state offers, could you use that to hire special ed teachers?
So Mrs. Martin can use the funds as she wishes, as she sees in her purview to use. There's
And
nothing that
this is
says
her
that-
idea, you're saying?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. There was a team that gathered from my group as well as Ms. Martin's group. Dr. Ebersole was a part of that group as well. And after West Virginia came in and left and provided the feedback, this is where Ms. Martin says, I think we really need to move our needle here or in these ways.
Thank you, Mr. Wink. So is there a motion to approve an RFP for special education services?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the RFP for special education services, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you, sir. Next, we have action on approval to change the date or time of the July 10th, 2023 regular board meeting. On that Monday, that would hopefully be our new superintendent's first meeting. And I've been informed that new superintendents and all board presidents are required to attend a training session out of town on that day, and we would not be able to make it back. So I was wondering if it would be possible to move the Monday, July 10th meeting to Tuesday, July 11th.
I'll make a motion that we move our meeting to July 11th.
Thank you,
I'll
Mr. Osborne.
second
Is there a
it.
6
second?
o'clock.
I'll second it for 6 o'clock.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Any discussion? All in favor of moving the July 10th meeting to July 11th at 6 p.m., say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Evidently, the state is going to have 22 new superintendents this year, so 22 out of 55. It is a little bit. All right, next up we have our very first advisory committee presenting to us. So congratulations on being first. No shoes to fill or anything.
Yeah.
You're going to be the top one until the next one presents.
Hey, I like those odds. How
Yes,
is
ma'am.
everybody? It's good to see you again. And thank you for your years of service to both of you guys. If we could have everybody from the semester exam committee come on down front here. It's a full house out here, guys, so give them a second to get down here. So I have to first say what a blessing it was to be on this committee. The group that we had, it just had every lens possible, and everyone was just so kind and hardworking and did the research and gave the time. It was a really, really focused effort, and I was just really proud to be a part of it. So I just wanted to say that. And we have some that aren't able to be here this evening, but I wanted to go ahead and just acknowledge how wonderful this committee was. So.
And I think you had until July 1st, and it's what, May? It's May. So
Look at us.
good job.
We were focused. So we had a presentation if we wanted to cue it. Is Jason in charge of that this evening? Oh, I didn't even see him back there. He is like Oz. It's- We're working on it.
He's on it.
I've got a copy here in case, just in case. They do. You guys have a copy too. Yeah. We made color copies for you. We have some pretty color copies of it. I sent really, we had, well, let me go into the makeup of our committee while he's pulling that up. I have to say, we had 2 community members, 5 parents, 5 high school teachers from both. Academic coaches, there were 2. There was a curriculum and instruction coordinator, and I have to say that some members had dual roles. You know, some people on the committee might also have been parents as well. There was also a SPED lens. I have to say there was a mathematics lens, there was an ELA lens, so I really felt science as well. That we just had a really well-rounded group. Oh, there it is, right there. Thanks, Jason. Go ahead and go to the next slide for me, and that just shows the makeup of what our committee was. I just, again, want to stress the point that we had varied lenses and everyone had input in this group, and that's what I loved most about it, was everyone had their lens and everyone had their say, and it was just wonderful, rich discussions and research. So it was a wonderful group. Can we go ahead to the next slide? Thank you. So we went through a certain process to get to the point where we are to present to you guys today. We were provided stakeholder input. We reviewed and discussed intended purpose of exams. What's the point of an exam? We conducted a lot of research, formal and informal. And then we allowed time to review the research as a committee. And then we conducted final discussion and a vote before we came to stand here before you guys today. So our recommendation is, and then we're going to go into how we got to that recommendation, is that we eliminate semester exams and give assessment autonomy to professional educators. So I am going to hand the baton to Ms. Nicholson, and she is going to give a little bit more insight into what happens currently in the high schools with exams. And so I'm handing it off to you.
Thank you. Good evening. This is almost my bedtime. I didn't realize this was going to be so late. So the first thing, Jason, if you don't mind going to the next slide, thank you. The first thing that we wanted to talk about is what the exam process actually looks like, because we know that there are some parents and community members that weren't really sure what all goes into creating the exams, administering the exams, and then the grading at the end. So first of all, every individual teacher creates their semester exams. It's not something that comes from a book or a website. It's not something that the department chairs create. Each teacher creates his or her own exams. For some teachers, like Ms. Grantham, who is here tonight, she has 5 different preps. So that means she's creating 5 different semester exams. The exception is because of the high number of long-term subs and unfilled teaching positions, sometimes other teachers will have to kind of help carry that slack and will create their exams themselves. So I know for Washington, I created all of the 10th and 12th grade English exams because I wanted there to be good, positive exams, and I know that they haven't really been given the resources to create that exam on their own. At Jefferson, they are not required to give common assessments, but at Washington, we were. So every teacher of the same subject and grade level gives the same assessment. So for English, we focused on skills and not just content. So it wasn't like we were testing on the Great Gatsby, but looking at annotating poetry and analyzing it and writing about it, such as that. Exams are turned into the department chairs, who review them with the principals approximately a week or 2 before exam week. And then if anything has to be changed or rewritten or revised, the teacher will adjust as soon as possible and resubmit it. Obviously, this creates a little bit of a problem sometimes because we have study guides and reviews for the exams. It's not often that they're not approved, but if they were to be not approved, then we would have to say, okay, we're going to stop this review. This is not what's actually on the assessment. We're going to do it this way instead. So although it hasn't been a problem that I've experienced, the potential is there. Only after the exam has the principal's signature can the exams be copied, and any accommodations that are listed on a student's IEP will be followed on the exam as they would be for any assessment in the classroom. One thing that we noted about this, students who have read aloud services, those services are provided, but they're often in group settings because we have the staff, that's what we have to do. So you may have 5 or 6 kids who are getting a read aloud for the same exam, and oftentimes when kids are in groups like that, they're less likely to ask for help. So if they do need you to repeat the question or something, they're not as forthcoming as they would be if it were one-on-one, which is just something we don't have the staff to do. During exam week, This, for second semester seniors with a 90% or above, were exempt from taking exams. All underclassmen continue with exams as scheduled. Students attend all 7 classes each day with 1 to 2 exams administering during the day. So like their second and 6th period exams. This is something that's very different in college, because in college you'll take your exam for that class and then you go back to your dorm room, you take a nap, you relax, you get something to eat, you have a little bit of a break. But in high school, they're here all day for the entire week, 2 exams a day. We also noted that students that have an IEP that may allow for extra time, like time and a half on an assessment, they may be taking multiple exams in a day, because if they're finishing up 1st and 4th period exam, and then today we start 2nd and 6th, that's a lot for one student to kind of take on. We also noted that during exam week, the schedule kind of changes. So practices and rehearsals are shortened to an hour to allow time for studying and for students to kind of decompress. No additional tests or quizzes can be given during that time, during that week for exams. So because of that, classes are not as rigorous during exam week. Often teachers will give at least partial time for a study hall or a bit of a brain break, because we don't want them to be overloaded. Either way, they're doing much lighter work than we would typically do during a school week. As a result, the week before exams is usually spent preparing for the exams and reviewing. And then with the exam week, that means that 2 weeks each semester are spent just for semester exams. So that equals out to a month of the school year is focused on semester exams, which is an entire unit of study that we really could be focusing on. For grading exams, there's really not a lot of turnaround time. Before Christmas break, teachers will either try to rush to finish before break, or they have to give up part of their break to grade. And during second semester, the time crunch is even greater. So for example, underclassmen finish their exams on Friday. Today was any kind of makeup exams, and grades are due tomorrow at 4. So because of that, they're not really, most teachers aren't able to give the quality exam they'd like to give, just because you can't grade as much as we would like to. You can't grade 150 essays in that short of a time period. So that's kind of what the exam schedule currently looks like and what goes into exams at the high schools.
You guys have that handout, by the way.
Yeah.
Up there. Anytime you see a link or a handout, you have it.
I said this was the first time I liked collaborating, because we were all type A people and we were very like nitpicky and getting everything. So I very much appreciate it. Jason, can we go to the next slide? So the first thing we wanted to look at is, what is the intended purpose of a semester exam? Why are we giving them? And as much as we seem to do this in education, we don't want to say, because we've always done it this way. So we have to look, what is the true purpose? So one thing we said, we'd give exams in order to assess our students. Are we looking at skills, whether it's performance-based on like in band or chorus, or an essay for English class, or is it content, like a knowledge-based exam on paper and pencil? We also looked at, we're preparing them for college exams or trade or career licensing exams that they would have to take. And then finally, we give exams to kind of guide our instruction. What is it that we really hit well? What do we need to review and kind of reteach? So those were our intended purposes. I didn't even have to tell you that time. Thank you. So in our discussion, we said that teachers are continually assessing our students in a variety of formats, analyzing the results to guide our instruction, and preparing them for college and careers. So this is something that we are doing all the time. I don't have to wait till a semester exam to know where my students are at. I know which ones are struggling with writing. I know which ones struggle with comprehension. This is something that we know because we're doing formative and summative assessments all throughout the semester. We don't need this benchmark at the end to tell us where they are. We looked at some of the various testing formats they have throughout the year. They have traditional testing in their classes, project-based testing, performance-based testing. They earn industry credits, like in their CTE courses. We have AP testing. Our dual enrollment courses have gone up over the last several years, and they have the SAT for juniors and the PSAT for sophomores. So they are getting all of these tests throughout the year. All right. We then had to conduct our research, and as a good educational body. Even though we're not all teachers, we do have our co-chair, Mr. Ray. He has his own educational background and his law background, so we're a well-educated group. So we wanted to look at what does the research say and not just what we think and feel and what our thoughts are. So the first thing we wanted to look at was what is the current semester exam policy. We then surveyed current and former college students, and I know that was something that some of the board members saw earlier this year. We wanted to look at the statistics on exams before 2020 when everything changed. What would be the effect of the exam worth 10% of the grade? And then what are some of the benefits and drawbacks based on the research that we could find? So at the December 12th meeting, the board voted and said that teachers may choose to have a cumulative exam or a regular test that's worth up to 3%. If cumulative, there had to be a study guide, and then that's where our advisory committee was born. On February 27th, it was decided that second semester for this school year would account for 10% of the semester grade. That being said, until the board votes on a separate policy, it would go back to the original 3% that was decided on December 12th. So from the survey results, which you also have a printout of that, one of the things that we noted is that math and some science courses were the most likely classes to give a traditional exam. They were most likely to have an in-class pencil and paper-based assessment. However, most colleges are moving away and moving towards more project-based assessments of the final exam, looking at essays, presentations, projects, labs, or a combination of traditional and project-based assessments. So that was one thing that we wanted to keep in mind also. For the data on exams before 2020, unfortunately, it's not something we have access to because the way Weavis saves the grade is the overall semester grade. It doesn't classify it as first 9 weeks, second 9 weeks semester grade. It's one total semester grade. So we don't have access to what the actual exam data was. However, I did teach before 2020, and I can say anecdotally, I know that the exams typically hurt students' grades. It's not often that a student's grade would increase because of a semester assessment. Typically, the grade would go down even if it's just a little bit, but it's not often that they do perfect on a semester exam. Jeremy Knight created this chart for us to see how much the grade would be affected. My eyes are not that good, but I know that if they had a 98 for the first 9 weeks and the second 9 weeks, if they scored a 13% on the assessment, they would still have a 90 overall. But you can see the screen a little bit better, or the printout in front of you. Oh, perfect. So you can see, in order for them to keep an A, if they had a 92, both 9 weeks, then they would be able to keep an A if they had a 68. And again, that's keeping it right at the 90 so that it wouldn't change a letter grade. All right, so getting into some of the research, we found for the benefits of cumulative assessments, the act of testing and retrieval of information increases the learning and retention better than just repeated studying. If there is some kind of motivation, they know they're going to be graded on it, then they are more likely to retain and recall that information. The evidence suggests also from this source that cumulative exams throughout the semester increase the performance on a cumulative final. It wasn't as beneficial if they just had the cumulative at the end, but having cumulative assessments throughout the semester was much more beneficial. Additional benefits, having the spacing effect, the idea of studying material again and multiple times, especially after a delay, increases long-term retention. And again, students are more motivated to study when they know that they have to remember this because it's going to be on an assessment that's coming up. So that motivation also helps them to retain the information. For some of the drawbacks, The assessment methods impact how students study and what they learn. So the idea of cramming and remembering it for just a short period of time, that's not really beneficial for them. That's just the surface level learning that we're not really interested in, and we really want to move more towards a deep learning. The traditional exams also narrow what teachers teach and produces anxiety for students and teachers. I can vouch for that. And promote minimal knowledge versus real life skills. It's really just about cramming what you need to have to be able to pass the test, but that doesn't always equate into a specialized training or a productive future employee. Additionally, students who were given cumulative exams throughout the semester, as I said, had higher grades than those who just had the cumulative final exam. So we discussed it would be more beneficial to encourage those cumulative shorter assessments throughout the 9 weeks and semester as opposed to one final longer cumulative assessment. Also, short answer quizzes produce stronger benefits than just a multiple choice. And as we said, because of the short turnaround time, teachers almost always have to include some kind of multiple choice because we just simply don't have the time we would like to grade exams. One of the common concerns about getting rid of the cumulative semester assessment is that eliminating exams will decrease the rigor of classes and ultimately lead to a lesser education. However, we found that states that have high stakes testing, like Virginia's SOL, for example, are less likely to improve their average scores on the NAEP assessment. And states without high stakes testing are also more likely to show improvement on the SAT or the ACT. So we see that growth that we're really looking for here. Additionally, students want to just kind of pass the test and get a good grade, which always crushes a teacher and breaks their heart. But they just want to know what they need to do to get a good grade, so it doesn't really encourage that lifelong learner that we're hoping to. Moving towards project-based assessments like essays, presentations, etc., really authentically engage the student with the material and produce that deeper learning that we're looking for. Today's parents would also like to see their children develop practical skills for both life and career, like critical thinking skills and moral character traits such as honesty, kindness, and integrity. Parents want their children to have learning opportunities across a variety of modalities, and they want learning to be assessed through a demonstration of mastery as opposed to just traditional tests. We kind of talked about, like, my husband is the driver's ed teacher, and you can have a student who gets 100% on the in-class portion, and they cannot turn out of the high school. And either he or Mr. Smith will say, nope, park it, we're going back. We're going back. Okay, I'm gonna pass it back to Andrea for this portion.
Hi, good to see you guys again. So we thought it would be important to contact the top 3 high schools in West Virginia to see what they're currently doing in regards to exams. And you would be shocked at how hard it is to find someone on a phone that knows what I was talking about, but I did. So the first place is George Washington High School. They have no midterms and teachers are given autonomy. And this principal was really stressing to me that she didn't understand how anyone could have a semester exam policy that was the same across the board in regards to differentiating instruction for students, and that teachers teach different ways and their students have been taught different ways throughout the semester. So she really wanted to stress that to me, that what they felt like, that if the teacher gave a final, they chose the weight and if it was project-based, but they don't currently have a policy or requirement for those things. The second place was Morgantown High School, and I also attached, if you guys can see on your slides, and also on your handout, the beautifully laid out percentages there for you. I thought I would make Miss Singh and Jeremy very proud, the mathematicians of the group. So second place, Morgantown High School currently has no midterms or semester exams, but here's what I found very interesting. When they did, it was tied to attendance and not grades. So what you see is students are driven to attend and get more content because they want to be there to not take that final. And also you're giving students, for example, special education students who are working so hard every day, a shot to not take that final, where if they have to receive that certain percentage to not take it, it might not be achievable for every student. So I found that very, very interesting. And if you go to third place, Bridgeport High School, they currently have them at 10%, but they're tied to, again, to attendance and not grades. So that was a very interesting find. And if they have 6 absences or 1 unexcused, then they have to take the exam. So that gave us some really important information there. I'm going to pass the baton about some of our statistics that are very important that we have to consider right now. We're getting tired. Friday night teacher tired is a thing, but like end of the year teacher tired is also a thing. So we appreciate you. I will leave that for you.
Okay, I didn't know I was presenting. I thought I was just being. So Jefferson High School has 63.5 professional teaching positions, 10 special ed teaching positions. 13 of those were filled with long-term subs for a percentage of 17.7%. Washington High School has 55 professional teaching positions, 11 special ed teaching positions. 16 of those are filled with long-term subs for almost 1/4. And we also looked into how many teachers were newbies with 3 or less years, and that's 32 out of the 118 high school teachers listed on the October 1st report, 27%. So as a veteran, you don't get really good at creating a good assessment in the first 3 years. You just don't. You've got to do some that work and some that don't, and that's a learning process. And since that October 1st report went out, we've lost 4 certified teachers, one long-term sub left their position as well. So those numbers are based on a very short window.
In talking about our long-term subs and our new teachers, we felt that it was really important to make known that we understand that we're very fortunate to have many intelligent and dedicated long-term substitute teachers, and that Jefferson County Schools very much could not operate if we did not have these dedicated people in our schools. So we are not trying to diminish the work they do at all. As Ms. Singh said, developing that depth of content knowledge takes time. My first class that I taught as freshmen was the class of 2016, and I still apologize when I see them in public because I don't know what I taught them. I loved them dearly, but I'm not sure what I taught them because it really just takes time. And I went to Shepherd for English Ed, so I was fully qualified, but I did not feel it, and I definitely didn't develop my content in that first year. This is time that the long-term subs do not have because they're often moving from subject to subject, even if we have repeat long-term subs, which we have several at Washington that we're very lucky to have. Mr. Currents, I know, has taught health and history and math and agriculture, and he's been all over the place. So you don't really have that time to develop those skills and that content knowledge. So requiring these teachers to be responsible for a common assessment that's worth 10% of a student's semester grade feels unfair to them and to the students. Additional barriers include not providing long-term subs with mentors. The mentor money from the state is for certified teachers, so our long-term subs that need that mentorship the most do not get it. We also have a lot of teachers that lose planning time due to class coverage. We haven't really had any professional development about exam creation. Again, when I started, that wouldn't have been something we needed. We all graduated, we have our education degree, we know how to create an assessment. But with so many long-term subs, we're asking them to do something that they haven't really been given the skills to do. We also have limited collaboration time. Jason. Limited collaboration time at the high school level especially, and these barriers, as I said, affect new teachers as well as long-term subs. So overall, these were our findings for semester exams. First of all, semester exams decrease the amount of valuable instructional time by approximately 1 month each school year. As I said, that's an entire unit of instruction because we have to stop and prepare them for this one special test and make sure they have all of that information. It also leads to cognitive overload. Students are attending other classes while still taking their exams. Special education students are the most disadvantaged because if they need extra time, then that's just compounding one on top of the other. Additionally, we do not provide long-term, the semester exams do not provide long-term learning benefits without frequent cumulative testing throughout the semester. The semester assessments cannot be used to drive instruction. Second semester, they take them right before they leave and go to the next grade. I'm not going to chase down seniors and say, wait, come back, come back. I know you just graduated, but let's talk about your semester exam. Once they take it, they're out. So we're not really using it to drive assessment. Even with first semester, we'll have students who change schedules, move teachers. So again, we're not really able to use that as a benchmark test. Semester assessments leave very little time for grading, and teachers, because of that, often have to give a less quality test than they would like to. Semester assessments do not reflect trends in higher education. I also noted while we were meeting, I think it was April 23rd, WVU actually decided that it will no longer require SAT or ACT for admission. That was something that was temporarily put in place for COVID, and they made the official decision that it's no longer a requirement for admission, I think April 23rd. So it was kind of interesting. It was happening at the same time. And finally, they do not provide adequate time for special education students, and because of the high stakes testing, they're often at the most disadvantaged. We also said that this semester, having final grades due on Tuesday before school was actually out on Friday made it even more difficult, so I feel like May was a bit of a wash, and that was kind of disheartening. Not a wash. We did a lot of instruction, but it was mostly exam-based, and so we had to cut out some of the fun learning we get to do at the end of the year. So once again, our recommendation, we acknowledge that we are just an advisory board, so we are advising you on what we have come to after having many wonderful discussions. We did not all initially support getting rid of semester exams, but after many great discussions and research, we took the time to really look through everything, and we were able to come to the consensus that we should eliminate semester exams and let teachers have the autonomy to assess their students as is best for them and their classes. So, what questions do you have?
What did you said you did research? Was there a journal or articles?
Yes.
You have that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The
I couldn't see that far.
Yeah, in your slides, the cute little computer screen. You don't have this?
You should have a copy. Laura Carter was supposed to get that. You guys had a color
You guys
copy.
don't have this?
Okay, well,
No.
I will touch base with her tomorrow and find out. You can have mine.
Okay.
Yeah, I have extra copies right there.
I have a few questions, so I'll just start asking. Yeah, I just want to, I mean, it was very thorough and comprehensive. A few clarifications. They're very different schools and teachers, and I can say that there was very high quality exams in the math department at Jefferson High. So they weren't rushed, they were very thorough, and hopefully they still are. The trends in higher, I read this chart, and it, out of, I guess, 17, I added them up. There at least, I guess it was like only 4, you know, where they didn't have a traditional type of test, and it seems like you mentioned, math and science are more likely to, because this was the English classes and design, and that graduate school, which a lot of graduate programs have, don't have the traditional exams. Forget, I had my questions all over the place. The high stakes exams relating to semester exam, I didn't catch the relationship of why that was added. I guess I could, I guess for myself, I would think that if we were doing semester exams that they ought to be, especially, I mean, I'm a critic of the Math 1, 2, 3 because we are not in line with the state math exam, which is the SAT or ACT. So, you know, if you're going to give something, it would be nice if it was helpful in some way, because the students eventually have to take those exams later. I'm wondering if you polled teachers at the schools and what they thought. I know that the big issue was that they were told at the last minute to change everything, and that took away a lot of time planning, and I like the idea of teacher autonomy. You know, we did that 100 years ago, and it would be really nice to get that back. Anyway, I guess the main thing is me wanting to know what they think.
So one thing I did want to clarify, because you mentioned the semester assessments, I wasn't saying that we're not giving quality assessments. They are, but they're just not to the quality that I would like them to be. For example, I teach AP Literature. I would love to give them all full essay exams, but I don't have the time because of how quickly I have to grade to do that. I know it takes me 10
I
days.
understand, but I just can only speak for the math
Right.
department, and math is a whole lot easier to give a test, because you can do a Scantron and.
Right.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure I was clarifying. I'm not saying teachers are not giving quality assessments. I know they are. I created half of them for English, so
Well, I wanna say,
I wouldn't
too,
discredit myself.
She also does those quality assessments throughout the semester.
Right.
So she's giving quality essays throughout the semester that she can actually use to drive instruction, as opposed to one final one where one and done, you know, where a student will go out and let's say even they're going to a trade program and they have to take some sort of test for it. You're still allowed to retest on those. It's not just one and done and you're out. You know, then you can use that to drive what you need to know. So I want to.
Yeah, I was expecting something about those benchmarks because of the state.
Okay, as far as the math 1, 2, 3, I was privileged to work with the State Department of Education on the new standards, which go into effect the year 24-25. Our Math 1 and Math 2 are just fine. They're aligned where they're supposed to be. They're cross-referenced to the SAT. Our Math 3 is now equivalent to an Algebra 2 course, so that's aligned to the SAT. So we are much more aligned that way. Benchmarks, as a curriculum specialist, I created benchmarks based on the standards to be given this year. Unfortunately, we didn't purchase the EduElastic program at the beginning to get that in place, but they're done now. So now next year, there'll be benchmarks for the math aligned to the standards.
Oh, that's good. Is there something requiring benchmarks from the state?
No.
Because
Well,
I thought
we're
somebody.
kind of going off topic here
Yes.
from semester exams.
Well, it is for me. It's related, because if we are requiring those across the board, then we know benchmarks are being done.
Right.
Why bother with an exam?
Yeah, I mean,
It's
to
not
me,
a
a benchmark is a
topic.
much more usable
I agree.
thing because
Yeah,
it
I
comes
know.
at a certain time and you can do something about it.
I think there's a county in Maryland that have been doing those, and they were number one in like
Yeah.
the country, and
Yeah.
that's what they did.
It's in process.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'd like to thank you for all the hard work you've done and the thoroughness of what you have done. I know it's taken a lot of time, and it's hard to get a group to decide on something, but thank you all for your process.
Thank you. They
Thank
were
you.
wonderful, I have to say. Like, you guys.
Yes, thank you.
I love our group.
Yeah,
And
I
not
was
only did you
nervous 'cause
decide
I
on it,
know.
you did it quickly. That's amazing.
Well, Dr. Gibson Learn.
As a thorn among the roses, I have to tell you, I was a citizen member of this committee, even though I have some teaching experience in my past. I can't think of a better group to work with. These people were motivated, they were bright, they were inquisitive, and you should pay real attention to what they've had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Gibson Learn, would it be possible to incorporate their findings into a policy and then on the June 12th meeting, put that out for public comment? And that way we can put it out for public comment June 12th, hopefully get feedback and vote on it the following meeting, and then it would be in place for the beginning of the school year by July 1st. So everybody would know where we are in plenty of time for planning.
Did you poll teachers? I'm sorry. I asked it and I didn't let you finish.
So if you recall, there was a poll like done during the December faculty senate, and we had 2 faculty senate people on our committee, faculty senate presidents, and we asked them that question, like, do you feel like the response?
I can't hear you.
Do you feel like the response that, we asked the faculty senate heads, do you feel like the response from your teachers, the overwhelming response that they felt upset about how the semester exam was handled in December came from the shortness or semester exams themselves? And they both were like, definitely the shortness. And then we went back and forth on whether to re-poll them, and we decided not to. I felt like didn't we?
I just wanted to know if the teachers have any part of this research that you
Right.
did.
In December, we had several polls.
Yeah, it's
between
just
the 2 schools.
not relevant to me.
Right,
I just
but
wanted to know what
also-
they think about whether to have them at all. and
Right. The other thing that we discussed, both schools and the county was well aware of the advisory committees. And in fact, we had 30 people, I think 30 or 31, sign up for this committee. And at the end, we only had 11. So we also kind of felt like teachers had the opportunity to be a part of the committee, to give feedback. I know we talked to teachers at our school. We had teachers from both Washington and Jefferson. And it wasn't that we had a high number of teachers that want a semester exam. It's if we're doing this, if we do all of the work to create a common assessment, to give review, to stay after school, to give up a whole month of what I would love to teach to prepare for this exam, then it has to really matter to the students. And I think that was the frustration, not that we have to have exams, but if we have them, they have to matter.
I would just quickly say, number one, that's not, even though I definitely believed that that was what the case would be, I did not believe that's what the committee would come back with. But I do thank you for putting the time in to do what's best for students, period, no matter what that is. Because to me, that's the most important, and I know that's the most important to all of you sitting there, or you wouldn't be there. I am very appreciative of this, and just at least, again, anecdotally, from my own child's experience this year, one of her classes, she was able to do a project-based learning, and they had to do like a Shark Tank thing, and I will give a shout out to Ms. Vickers for that. I learned that she was incredibly talented to make video and PowerPoint, and they did this entire presentation, including sewing a sleepwalker, whatever that was, and they had to actually physically make it and present it, and the learning of public speaking, persuasion, and all those things that went with it was an incredible amount of learning, way more than a test would have taught them. So I was really thankful for that experience, and just again, anecdotally, it was such a great experience, and great for the teacher to be able to experience that with them. So thank you guys for the work that you did on this, and definitely recognizing the special education population as well. Thank you.
And also thank you for the small thing of staying here until 8:20 at night. So if I look down at my paper next and you're all gone when I look up, I will totally understand. So thank you very much, and have a great evening.
Thank you.
All right, next we have board member comments and committee reports. Ms. Bratton, do you have anything?
Sure. We have a lot of promotions and awards coming up in our county. Just to mention a couple, like honor roll awards, good behavior awards. We have congratulations to our pre-K children who are going to kindergarten, and our kindergartners who are getting promoted to first grade. We have fifth graders being promoted to middle school. Our 8th graders are being promoted to high school. And then, of course, we just had our high school graduations. I have never shook so many hands before in my life as I did on Sunday. But it was one of the best feelings, just such a happy and exciting day for everyone. And I was so excited to be a part of that. And I just want to say congratulations to our seniors and thank each and every staff member and administrator in our county for everything that you do for our children. Thank you.
Mr. Osborne?
Once again, congratulations to our seniors. It's a marvelous time for them, and I want them all to be safe. We had a very good meeting from our West Virginia School Board Association in Romney the other night, and I thought it was a very well-presented evening, and I learned quite a bit from that.
Long meeting.
Long meeting, and a meeting far away from home, but it was a very good meeting, and we'll be having an EPIC meeting this Thursday.
Mrs. Ogden?
Just would like to say the speeches as well at graduation were really, really well done by all the students who gave them. So that was a lot of fun. Congratulations to the Jefferson boys who were runner-up and to the girls who got first place at the state track meet in the pouring down rain on Saturday. Also to Brady Desrochers, who's a junior. He actually placed, this was so cool, second place in the state in the stock market competition, which I thought was very cool. So he had to do applied research, critical thinking, and analytic skills. So good to him, good for him. Thomas Broderick actually got first place in the 4th grade math field day at Jefferson. And National Merit Scholars, which again is an incredible honor. Eli Dillo was chosen among 15,000 finalists and received a $2,500 scholarship. And Layla Parker chose the college-sponsored merit scholarship for the University of Maine. So she's going to have that scholarship for 4 years of undergraduate study. So congratulations to both of them for going way above and beyond. I also just want to recognize as well, Macy White, who was here earlier to get the Young Writers Award, is actually one of our JVA students, which I thought was really nice to see all the different aspects of which students can learn and do well and have those experiences. Washington and Jefferson, Washington High School and South Jefferson partnered together with a fax class, which as well I thought was very fun. Thank you to Cheryl Fiolik at South Jefferson, who's the art teacher there, and she had the students there create their superheroes. And the fax class at Washington High School actually helped design those and sew them and create them and make them for the students. And just a really neat cooperation between the two, collaboration, and be able to even just show the elementary school students where they can be someday in high school and try to keep spurring that on. The 5th grade at Shepherdstown actually reenacted Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dreams with Ozo bots and a STEAM activity, which I thought was really fun. And then Drisswood and C.W. Shipley had Farm Day, so thank you to the FFA students from Jefferson who helped them out with that. And last but not least, CTMS 7th grade science class learned about plate tectonics with an escape room, which I thought was very innovative and creative and just kind of the things that we were talking about. What a great way to help them learn. So there's just a lot of fun things going on in the schools, and it's always fun to let the public know because they don't get to see those things, and just thankful for all the hard work that everybody's doing. So thank you.
Dr. Joy?
Yeah, I'll try not to repeat anything that's been said. Let's see here. I can start by thanking the Transportation Department for hosting the retirement celebration for Dr. Gibson Learn and Ms. Harner. I also wanted to thank ProStart students who made and served food for the staff during graduation ceremony. The graduations were wonderful. I especially was touched by the tribute to Mrs. Lewick, honoring her family. It was really touching. Many people went above and beyond during graduation, and I wanted to especially thank Mr. Banks for definitely going above and beyond. Let's see. There are 2 students that were recently given the positive office referrals at South Jefferson Elementary, Alex Everhart and James North. The girls' softball wasn't mentioned, so Jefferson High School girls' softball, they made it to states. They were the regional winners. And then there's a couple of announcements about opportunities for our students. Blue Ridge Technical has free classes in web and Minecraft programming for grades 6 through 12 for the summer. And then bookitprogram.com, BOOKIT program.com. They will give pizzas for students reading books, and ages are 4 through 12 or pre-K through 6th grade. And I think that's about every. Oh, I don't know that I mentioned that several staff of Jefferson County Schools students helped with the Big Kiwanis fundraiser, and the Kiwanis Club raised $9,400, which is $4,000 more than they've ever raised before, and a lot of that was due to several staff members donating their time and items. So that's about it.
Mrs. Bratton, did you have one other thing you forgot?
I do, thank you. So I just wanted to bring this to our students' attention that the federal government, the Securities and Exchange Commission, has student trainee program support positions available. The Pathways Internship Program targets students accepted for enrollment or that are enrolled and seeking a degree or certificate at an accredited educational institute. These are paid positions for interns, and they could lead to federal careers as well. This job is open to students, current students enrolled in accredited educational institutes from high school to graduate level. It includes internships, pathways, and other student programs. It's a very good way to get into the government or to even get experience. When Lori Ogden spoke of the stock market, this is what made me think of this, because the Securities and Exchange Commission, one of the things we do is police the stock market. So to the student that you spoke of, this would be maybe a good opportunity to get some experience or whatever the case may be. But I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Superintendent, do you have any comments this evening?
Washington had some track people at state, and they broke some school records.
Yes, they did. Washington was there. I can speak to Summer Malone in the pole vault. She placed, which was awesome to see. She's graduating this year, so yes, but there were others as well. It's fun to watch.
Well, if we're going to talk about pole vault, we have a student, I think Angus, he just started pole vault in March. That's incredible. And he went to states and he got 11, he finished 8th, but 11 feet. That's just incredible. I mean, he's a natural pole vault.
And his mom is one of our teachers, which is even more fun.
Well, now that Miss Ogden's daughter is on the track team, I'm sure we will know all about track and field.
All right. So we do have an executive session this evening on personnel, but do not anticipate action. Is there a motion to go into executive session for personnel?
Make a motion to go into executive session.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? All right, thank you very much, 8:30.